everyone, and welcome to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Jaime Agostino. On this podcast, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today, we are joined by Jeff Chelius with Riverfront Federal Credit Union and Andi Crockett with Vizo Financial MyCU Services to talk about the FedNow Services. Welcome, Jeff. Welcome, Andi. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right. So, Andi, Riverfront Federal Credit Union was the first credit union Vizo Financial and MyCU Services onboarded onto the FedNow service. Tell me about what that implementation process looks like.
Yeah, so I'll give kind of a high-level overview of what the experience for implementation was for this implementation, and then of course moving forward. So when a credit union is ready to proceed with implementing one of our instant payment services here at the corporate, we really start off by discussing and delivering an instant payments addendum for the credit union to review and sign. This will outline some of the connections that we will be putting in place and implementing so that the credit union knows what to expect, and so does Vizo and MyCU Services. So once the credit union has had the opportunity to review their addendum, they will go ahead and sign, that they're in agreement with implementing the services. From there, our implementation team will be notified that there is a pending instant payment implementation, and they'll reach out to the credit union to collect all of the information needed for both the onboarding process as it relates to the Federal Reserve, but also for our payment service provider. So once we have all of the connections and setup in place based on what is provided in the questionnaires that the credit union fills out as a part of the implementation process, we'll move into testing and validation, which would involve our payment service provider, and then of course the credit union and Vizo Financial and MyCU Services. And then once we're able to confirm that all the connections are in place and everything is functioning as it should be, we'll select a go live date and go in to make sure that we have everything prepared for production settings, and then some other housekeeping items, when you're taking a look at marketing materials, social media posts, signing up for service announcements, and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into the process, and it's developed over time, and I'm sure that there will be things that come up along the journey for some of the credit unions on the various core providers. And of course, we're here to navigate all of those situations with all of our credit unions.
All right. So Jeff, I know you've been on the system for a few weeks now. So what prompted Riverfront Federal Credit Union to decide to implement the FedNow service?
Right. So Riverfront, we've been maintaining an ear on the ground, so to speak, on the progress of the Faster Payments Network from when it was a concept announced. The Fed Faster Payments Committee was developed. So we kept in tune with it, believing that it really could be as widely accepted as ACH, card network, those things. And if that were to be true, we felt that we wanted to have that service in as a benefit for our members. We wanted to be a player in the game. So when there was finally kind of a deadline, not deadline, but an implementation timeline that was put out, we knew that we wanted to be in that network and to offer that service so that our members could use it if that's their choice.
All right. So Jeff, tell me, how did the implementation process go on the credit union's end? How was it working with, Vizo Financial and MyCU Services to implement this instant payment service at your credit union?
Right. I'll say in a word, it was seamless, also excellent. And really, nothing that Riverfront did. It was all what Vizo Financial and MyCU did in their preparedness, the readiness and getting ready, building the platform, working with their provider to make it simple for us. We coordinated with our core processor, involved their senior management in the decision making. Obviously, really, the credit goes to Vizo Financial and MyCU for bringing us along. They created the timeline and the project plan for us, worked with the Federal Reserve and their provider to get us set up. I really don't want to oversimplify it, but because of all the work done by Vizo and MyCU, it really made it a streamlined process for us. And really, we had to focus on balancing settlement, how we were going to communicate it to the members, make them aware that it was available as a payment receipt option for us, because we went in as a receiver only. So it could not have been a better project for us, thanks to the folks at Vizo and MyCU.
All right. So Andi, how long does the entire implementation process for the FedNow service take, from start to finish?
All right. So the implementation process can take, of course, longer if the credit union's core provider still yet has to develop and code to the API connection to our payment service provider for the FedNow service. But being that some of the core providers are already working with our payment service provider, there are some core connections that we can leverage and take advantage of starting from day one. So based on the implementation that we've completed at this time, we're looking at a 12 to 15 week implementation time frame. Of course, I believe that will shorten over time. As we progress and we get implementations under our belt, if you will, we will expect to see those progress and develop in even stronger and quicker ways to make sure that we can, run as quickly as maybe 4 to 6 weeks for an implementation. So as things develop over time and implementations keep coming in and we keep processing and moving forward in a positive direction, of course, those implementations will get more seamless and more, of course, faster. And then, that'll be a benefit to all parties. You want to give instant payments to your membership. We want to be able to tell you can do that within, the next month or month and a half. So if we get to that, standard and time frame, I think that's the real goal here over time. And I think it's very possible.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. The more you do it, the more efficiencies that you guys will learn.
Yes, absolutely. And we had that conversation with our payment service provider. The more we do, the faster it'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Jeff, why did you choose, Vizo Financial and their payment queue, so MyCU services as your instant payments provider?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we were keeping an ear to the ground in terms of the development for faster payments. What we did is we looked at our options, who was out in the space that were providers. Of course, we are already a MyCU and Vizo Financial member. And when we heard that MyCU was bringing this to the market for the membership, and being part of our due diligence, we considered it. We knew the great service that we already received from Vizo. The people are great. It was, I'm not going to say no-brainer, but it was a no-brainer for us that we considered our options, but really felt that Vizo was the proper choice for Riverfront, knowing things were already built and knowing that the care and the dedication that the staff take to making sure that we are the primary focus. So it was a very easy decision for us, knowing that there was others out there we could have chosen from.
Okay. So Jeff, I'm curious, how is the new service going so far?
So far, so good. We've been on for maybe a month and a half, and we've had a handful of members have received payments into their account through the service. We went intentionally with a soft launch where we have a post on our website to make people aware that we do have it if their senders are going to send. We are developing more robust communication to let our membership know that FedNow, the faster payments, is an option for them to get their payments into Riverfront, should that be their choice. But for now, a handful have used it already successfully.
All right, great. So Andi, for other credit unions that are consider adding this new service, what other items should they be thinking about?
Well, Jaime, I think one of the main pieces of the FedNow puzzle that oftentimes when I have conversations with credit unions that is missing is pertaining to the credit union's FedNow participant profile. That is accessed through the FedLine Advantage system for the credit unions and, of course, other financial institutions. FLA access or higher is what you would need as a credit union or financial institution to be able to have the ability to manage your own FedNow participant profile. So we're kind of noticing a trend that some credit unions do not have access to FedLine Advantage or higher. Maybe they have FedLine Web. So in those situations, the credit union really has to take that information back, reach out to their relationship manager at the Federal Reserve, and see what costs are associated with having FLA access or higher. Can they justify those costs? If they can't, and they do not want to purchase FedLine Advantage access or higher, the credit union does have other options. Some of those options include, of course, using MyCU Services or Vizo Financial as your FedNow participant profile manager. We do have our instant payments profile management service that we offer to our credit unions. And then you can also choose to look at a third party to manage your FedNow participant profile. Maybe you have, another provider that you want to look at to utilize for that service. So those are just some of the scenarios and options that the credit union has available to them when they're looking at profile management. But I would say across the board, this is one thing that had come up during implementations that was sort of unexpected. So, of course, that's going to happen with every implementation, especially with a service and a payment rail that's so new. So that's one thing that I've been screaming through from the rooftops for our credit union so that they know and they know what to be prepared for, and they can look at their costs and see what makes the most sense for them.
Okay. All right. So Jeff, if there are other credit unions, considering it, what is your advice to the credit unions that might be on the fence about implementing the FedNow service?
Sure, because it is a big decision. For those that are on the fence that have already at least given it some thought, again, as Andi mentioned, determine whether you already are on the FedLine Advantage system. And also FedLine is something we use day to day, so it was kind of already built in for us. But again, know who your providers are, what options are out in the market, and whether you want to, as a credit union, become a receiver only or a sender and receiver. Those are options that will need to be determined, and really, take a look at what the consumer's expectations are nowadays. It's really, the expectation is that I, as a consumer, should be able to get my money from whomever is going to send it to me right away. And if not, then why not? Why, if my institution is not, then what we didn't want our members to do is look to some other provider that could accommodate that, because it's more of an expectation that money can move at the snap of a finger, and it does. And similar to ACH, again, we want it to be a receiver only. When sender becomes available, we will likely look at that. And credit unions who are already members of Vizo Financial and use MyCU, those things, decisions could be a more easy decision process for the management teams because they are already familiar with the great service that Vizo provides. For those that are not members, Vizo Financial may be something to consider because the the infrastructure is built, it's working, it's quick and painless, and the team takes you through it without any heavy lifting on the credit union side.
Right. So Andi, any final thoughts for our listeners today?
Yeah, of course. If you are interested about learning more about the instant payments and the FedNow service, please reach out to your corporate account manager so that we can have those conversations. Of course, I'm available to any credit unions, whether they be members or not, to make sure that you all are getting your questions answered when it comes to the FedNow service and instant payments. Education is going to be a huge piece here moving forward for the FedNow service. So I would encourage you all to start researching if you're interested about the FedNow service and, of course, instant payments in general. Our payments ecosystem is quickly emerging and it's quickly growing to, be faster and faster as time goes on. And what Jeff said, of course, it's an expectation with even with our younger generation, looking to make sure that you can receive funds, with the speed and convenience that everyone's looking for. And of course, you want to be able to provide that to your membership. And, MyCU Services and Vizo Financial is prepared to facilitate that.
All right. Well, Jeff, Andi, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about the FedNow service and what that implementation process looks like. So thank you so much.
Of course.
A pleasure. Thank you.
All right. This episode of Financial Minds Meet the Experts is brought to you by Vizo Financial's 2024 Risk Management Conference. To dispel the darkness of unforeseen risk, credit unions must shine a light on new and emerging risk management tools and practices. At Vizo Financial's Risk Management Conference on April 23rd through the 25th, that's exactly what we'll be doing to help institutions outshine the shadows of uncertainty. For more information and to register, please visit Vizo Financial's website at www.vfccu.org. As always, thanks for listening and make it a great day.